Good afternoon, Britannia, and hello to the rest of the world. Welcome to 2CTV. Earlier this morning, the leader of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, made an announcement and officially launched the Labour Party Manifesto for this year's general election. And in this video, we're going to go through some of the worst parts of this manifesto. It's important to mention that Keir Starmer's father was a toolmaker, in case you didn't know. He only mentions it every 10 minutes. But we also now have the confirmation that Keir Starmer's toolmaker dad actually helped Starmer with some ideas. Starmer used his dad's tools, a hammer and a sickle, to build the Labour Party's manifesto. And we now have confirmation that Joseph Stalin would have been proud of this upcoming government. So, now, without exaggerating, it is important to mention this is a socialist manifesto. This is a socialist potential government, upcoming government, regardless of what Keir Starmer wants you to think. Starmer wants you to think, hey, I'm purging the far left. It's simply basically the people who have a problem with him personally, not based on ideology. You've still got all the leftists from Afsana Begum, which we have something about that later on the channel, and Angela Rayner and many other socialists in the Labour Party. The manifesto itself, it's completely socialist, despite, again, the rhetoric that is creating that this is just the sensible centrist government. Okay, in case you didn't know, first bad part of this manifesto, there will be tax rises. Yes, tax rises are normal when it comes to parties getting into governments, right? Usually you get a few £1 million here, a few £1 million there. The Labour Party's tax rises, get ready for this, £7 billion. £7 billion tax rises. It's going to hit all of you. They're going to go for sales tax, or as we call it, VAT. So anything that you are buying now. So as the inflation comes down now, and it has come down now to about 2%, 3%, whatever, and that's the target anyway, closer to 2.5. The prices are not coming down, but the rate of obviously the increase is slowing down, which is good. It's good news. But as the inflation comes down, VAT is going up, which means cost of living crisis will continue, but this time artificially. Because when inflation was high, that was not artificial. That was just the reaction of the market to the current environment, economic environment. But the Labour Party would say, even if inflation is coming down, we're going to increase taxes. Then it's not just VAT, it's everything else. But they want you to think they're just going after the rich people. It's not just the rich people. That's the whole point. They lie just like how Tony Blair lied. Second bad part about this manifesto, which is not really a surprise because we already got the indication that this is going to happen. Keir Starmer, as Prime Minister, will recognise Palestine as a state. Considering we have our own problems in this country, I'm not really sure why a controversial foreign policy is a priority for the future potential Labour government rather than just focus on domestic issues. It's not going to care about mass migration or anything like that. Palestine will be an official state, even though they don't even know which part of the Palestinian territories they're talking about. Are they going to talk about Gaza, or are they going to talk about the West Bank? Maybe they mean both. If you mean both, which government will be in charge? Will it be Hamas? Will it be Mahmoud Abbas? Obviously, there'll be the Palestinian authorities, or maybe we're going to get Fatah to come back. They don't even know who's going to be in charge. They don't even know exactly which territory. So it's just going to basically make Britain a magnet for more so-called Palestinian migrants to move here. Because they would say, if the UK recognises us, then we will be nice refugees. They give us a free hotel and free food and free jobs. The third bad point about this shocking manifesto announcement was a new deal with the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, as if Theresa May was not enough of a traitor to sign up to the EU Defence Union, the foundation of the EU Defence Union, or as we call it, the EU Army. Well, we're going to have a new deal based on security. And this is not really just about cooperation, because you do not cooperate with the European Union. You give away your sovereignty to the European Union. It's not like a normal organization. Even theoretically speaking, academically speaking, NATO, you cooperate inside NATO, even though obviously the Americans call the shots. But technically speaking, you still have to negotiate. But the European Union doesn't cooperate. You sign up a deal when it comes to security or anything else you have to listen to them. They will come up with ideas and you simply have to follow them. So that is another problem. It gets worse. All your lovely cars will officially be banned by 2030. That is the net zero confirmation that we now have. Cars will be banned. All the diesel cars and all the petrol cars, everything that we've had until now. The Tory party obviously had a similar idea. They pushed back. They realized it's not feasible. Then they said we're going to phase it out from 2035 in terms of the manufacturing of it, which is going to destroy the economy, by the way. But now they're going to ban the cars by 2030 to keep Greta Thunberg happy. It gets worse. It's not the only thing. The socialist part of this upcoming Labour government isn't just about tax rises. Tax rises doesn't necessarily make you a socialist in that sense, or even recognizing the Palestinian state. It makes you crazy and stupid. But controlling everything from a centralized planning system, that is extremely socialist. The low traffic neighborhoods, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching from abroad, LTNs are essentially, as you can see in the photo, they block roads in the name of the environment, in the name of climate. But then what that does, because certain roads are blocked, do you know what happens? Cars are going to go to different roads nearby and cause traffic and cause pollution. But apparently, the eco-scientists have told us that's a good idea. Despite pushback, even the so-called Tories have been forced to go back against it, saying, yeah, maybe this was not a good idea. And even the Tories, I don't defend the Tories, but I'm just saying, even the Tories didn't use the centralized government to push it. They got the local governments to basically decide whether they wanted or not. Not a good excuse, but at least they didn't force them. The Labour government will make everything centralised, including the low traffic neighbourhoods policy and everything else around it. So even though they pretend to be a party in favour of motorists, nope, they're banning cars and blocking roads. How is that in favour of motorists? It gets worse. Ladies and gentlemen, children under the Labour Party, under Labour governments, will be able to vote for their politicians and prime ministers and government ministers and the local MPs. This is hell. Absolute socialist hell. Children, like mini children, and when they're 16, 17, they could vote. Yes, we knew this was going to happen anyway. But they always wanted to bring down the voting age for children to vote. They always wanted to give voting rights to foreigners. That's why they're going to have more open borders to do this. But it's going to make things harder. The only hope that we have is that young people don't really vote. So hopefully they won't come out to vote. Otherwise, if they all keep coming to vote, considering that they've essentially infiltrated, the socialist left, infiltrated our academia and schools, all these teachers will be brainwashing these kids, and as they get close to 16, then they would be voting left-wing anyway for a short period of time, at least until they grow up and pay bills. But let's just hope they don't come out to vote, because they're lazy usually anyway, children. Now, even though this Stalinist manifesto was terrifying, apparently for the far left it was not good enough. Keir Starmer's speech was heckled by Greta Thunberg's friends. It was embarrassing. So you literally have the whole room filled with a bunch of socialists. The color red was everywhere. But you still had some people from the far left infiltrating it to basically be angry. I have my own conspiracy theories. I know this is just crazy theories. I'm just saying it. I'm just expressing my opinion. At this point, considering how the manifesto is left-wing and now you have Angela Rayner and all these guys, it makes no sense why the far left will be so angry at the Labour Party, so angry. My theory is that they want this to happen. They want some of the far left idiots to basically heckle Starmer so that they could be seen as the far left, and Starmer and the Labour Party would say, this is the change Labour Party. Look, we are actually having the leftists being angry at us. We are not ideological. This helps with their narrative. It does. Because people would say, oh, well, if a bunch of communists are angry at Starmer, maybe that means he's not as bad as Jeremy Corbyn. The policies are similar. It's just the rhetoric that's changed. It's embarrassing. The whole thing is going to be very, very costly and very damaging to the culture and country. And I'm not just talking about tax rises, a £7 billion tax rises. That's embarrassing. But in terms of the cultural damage that it's going to be doing with multiculturalism, voting age coming down, voting rights to foreigners in the future, and of course, a mass migration. Get some of your action. Lord Raven, thank you. Saying communism is a temporary setback on the road to freedom. Remove his knighthood. He is a traitor to our nation. As for the EU, we will never rejoin the Fourth Reich. I love your channel, by the way. I don't think we'll ever join the EU anyway. And Mike says, can it be noted that the manifesto is not a set in stone package of promises? It is a chance for political parties, all of them, to lie to you. That is a good point as well. And Nick says, I can't see Starmer lasting more than 1 year before he's ousted. Rayner will probably take over. Reform will win a lot of by-elections after that. So actually, all those people who don't like the Labour Party and want to, for example, find a way to cancel Angela Rayner, don't. You need to support Angela Rayner because she is the only one who could actually take over from Keir Starmer, and she will be the leader of the Labour Party. I can assure you that is a beautiful thing. Even if it's a temporary pain, actually it's worth it, because by having Angela Rayner as the leader of the Labour Party in the future, we can finally take back control of the government after the next election. So it's all down to the centre-right to unite. Of course, Reform UK have a big chance now to at least prevent a big majority for the Labour Party, as long as it's doable, as long as you have Reform UK. And they're all talking about merging. The Tories are running out of money anyway, so they can't really continue as a party. If they merge, but make sure that all the wet liberal Tories are kicked out, we could in the future have a situation like in Canada in the 90s, where the Conservatives and Reform conform could be formed in the future, or just Reform completely replace the Tories. It doesn't really matter. And then you can actually have one unifying centre-right party against all these left-wing parties that are splitting each other's votes. So Angela Rayner as a Labour leader in the future, that will be a beautiful thing for the country. Back Rayner, guys, back Rayner. Chris says, I'm a libertarian. Sound. I see young people in a Turning Point UK seeing projects on right-wing thinking, so I won't dispute it. What? I see young people in Turning Point UK, yeah, seeing projects on right-wing thinking. Seeing projects on right-wing thinking, so I won't dispute. Okay, thank you. Totalitarian says, I know Labour will win, but I'd rather have a Tory win from a very slim majority. But Reform UK making big gains, taking votes from Labour, Lib Dems and Tories. So Reform UK are taking a lot of votes from the Labour Party now, especially in the north. The problem is the Tories are splitting the centre-right vote, so they're going to allow Labour to win. If we went for the Tories, Reform UK could win more seats, but they will be potentially getting 5, 6 or 7 seats anyway, they're saying, and the Tories won't get many anyway, so they'll be getting probably like, I don't know, 30, 40 seats, but they will be preventing Reform UK from doing better. James says, a Socialist UK would cause a civil war, literally. I'm not really sure. We've had socialist-leaning governments. If you can technically count Clement Attlee's government, at least it was economically socialist, obviously, not culturally. But, you know, in the 70s, we basically had socialism. Again, not a socialist system, but socialism. You know, we just rebel in a very British way, in a democratic way. People will rise up and vote for the savior, the next savior. They've been talking about some sort of uprising in this country since the 1400s. We don't do that in this country. We are not the French. Anyway. Poppy says, if people who voted Brexit decided to vote Reform, it will be game over. Well, that is a good point. Because it's still a huge chunk of that 52% are still fine with Brexit anyway. If they all get together, and a lot of them would be Labour voters anyway, some of them. So they're the ones who voted for Boris Johnson in 2019. If Reform could, don't make it about Brexit directly, but if Reform could remind them of the days of the Brexit referendum and the campaign and everything else, remind them why they voted Leave, not just because of the EU, but anti-establishment sentiment, they could get a lot of votes, just like how the Brexit Party did in 2019. Millwall666 Lioness, thank you so much for your super chat. Let's have a look. Casement says, this will be a communist government. Imagine. Labour haven't changed at all. Starmer is a wolf in sheep's clothes. Yes, it would definitely be socialist, obviously not communist, because it will be very, very different. Massive difference between communism and socialism, but absolutely, I agree. It will be, at least it would expose the true face of the establishment themselves. So let's not forget that this election is crucial on so many different levels, including individual politicians and candidates. Now, 2CTV will be having an exclusive live stream tonight at 8 p.m. In case you don't know, 8 p.m. UK time tonight, right here, we have a whistleblower who happens to be the ex-husband of the Labour MP Apsana Begum. Apsana Begum, in case you don't know, let me just put her face on the screen. She is the first ever. It's not a good thing. Wait, where's the thing gone? There we go. Apsana Begum is the first, what we call, as a joke, visibly Muslim woman. What's going on with this screen? Okay, I'm struggling, guys. I'm struggling. Hang on. She's coming. No. There we go. Apsana Begum is the first, the hijab-wearing Muslim MP in the House of Commons. Her ex-husband, who was also part of the Labour Party and is now turned whistleblower, is going to be coming on the channel at 8 p.m. UK time with evidence. I've seen the evidence to expose the deep scandals and corruption and alleged crimes of Apsana Begum and the people around the top of the Labour Party leadership and Corbynistas and Momentum. These are things that are actually criminal, but also allegations that will be dealt with, hopefully. This will be a 2CTV exclusive, and hopefully after this broadcast tonight, we could actually have the rest of the press and the media also picking up the story. We will be leading the news as usual. I can assure you, when you watch that live stream at 8 p.m, you will be a little bit concerned about how the political system operates. I know you already are, but you will see the personal dark side of these politicians who seem just like normal people. They look just like ordinary people. Look at me, I'm so nice, vote for me. Oh, look at my headscarf. We will allow the whistleblower, Apsana Begum's ex-husband, to tell his story. We've already heard some of Apsana's story. And we'll obviously have been in touch with Apsana Begum's team for a comment. They have completely ignored us. We'll find out what they want to say. All right. Let's go back to some of your reaction again. Tiger says we are all tool makers now. Absolutely. And our tools are hammers and sickles. There's by the way, when it comes to Apsana Begum's story later on, there's also a lot of exposés about people like her, people similar to her, being actual Islamists and supporting the Islamic extremists when it comes to the Palestinian cause. We will talk about that as well. Paul says socialism is only a rung on the ladder to fascism and communism. Yeah, I mean, the issue was socialism would always lead to it, but in 20th century, the Western system, the Western globalist system, found a way to contain it, which was kind of smart, but still damaging long term. So in order to prevent socialism to reach fascism and communism, which it always did before, from mid and late 20th century onwards, the systems that we have, they basically embraced socialist-leaning ideas and socialist-leaning politicians to make them mainstream, and they called it social democrats. And social democrats from across the world, they became a norm. They are socialists, basically, and they said, but you're part of the system, everything's fine. So technically, we have prevented some sort of, communist revolutionary nonsense. We have, but by allowing them to come into the system, we allow them to infiltrate freely and legally, constitutionally, and we allowed the socialists to take over. Yes, we might have prevented the revolution, but they are now running our institutions and our establishments. Patricia says, YouTube is removing channels that push back against the leftist propaganda. Apart from 2CTV, guys, 2CTV will be safe and secure. Oh, we got deep powers behind. I just know how to play the game. We just report the news. Nick says, Kim Jong-un. That's a good one. Kim Jong-un put 33 photos of himself in the manifesto. There have been a lot of photos, and I think it was about 130 pages when I went through it. 110, 130. Not much substance, let's just say. It was very similar to the Canadian Liberals manifesto last time. And if you remember, some of you, especially if you're watching from Canada, Justin Trudeau's team, it was, at best, it was wishy-washy. And they kept it vague so that you can't complain about it, which is a genius. All right. Greg from Canada actually says, with socialist governments running up debt, homeowners and small businesses will go under from crushing interest rates. We are going to see a transfer in wealth from the have-nots to the have-yachts. That is a good point. So what Greg talks about is also what is going to be part of this Labour government in the UK. It's not just the VAT that's going to go up, which is basically affecting all the working class people because they would spend more money on anything they buy, but the business rates on small businesses, all these shops that you are seeing. I'm not talking about Tesco, Sainsbury's, like these massive supermarkets. Small shops will be destroyed. High street shops will be destroyed. And interest rates obviously will continue to go up, but there's a whole argument against it and in favor of it in terms of short-term gain, short-term loss. But that is different. Right now, inflation is coming down, but of course, tax will go up, so you'll be spending the same as you're spending now anyway, probably worse in the future. Kelly says, hi Maya, are you still catching up on the phone calls? Yes, I am. Just a note to remind people to check their spam folders for your email. Yeah, this is about the 2CTV Plus members. If you join 2CTV Plus, here we go. No, that's the wrong photo. On the annual option, or annual subscription options, and obviously you get a discount, but also you get a welcome phone call from me. I'm still going through them. And I've called a number of people who didn't pick up, so I'm going to call them back. It's a big list. We'll go through also depending, and it's also the time zones because I'm calling people from across the world. I have to see if I can call America now, or if I can call Australia, or if I can call Yorkshire. So afternoons is usually for the UK. So I'll be calling you soon after this. Super chat from James says his father was a fool maker. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. Fool maker. And Susan, thank you for your super sticker. Of course, as I said, we'll keep you guys posted on all these manifesto reactions and everything else. But later on, 8 p.m. UK time, a 2CTV exclusive live conversation with a whistleblower from the Labour Party who happens to be Apsana Begin's ex-husband. And if you want to know who Apsana is, she's basically the AOC of British politics. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.